that a go sign? Perfect. I would like to call the meeting to order. If we could all stand for the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a roll call, please.
Justin Rock,
Here.
David Glabe,
Here.
Corinne Dudo,
Here.
Nicole Howard. Here. Molly King is absent excused. Mary Ann is absent excused. Denise Wheeler.
Here.
Perfect, thank you. Is there any changes to the agenda?
There's no changes from what I had already sent you guys. Mary Ann did email me on a slight change on the minutes that I had emailed you first. I fixed that. She confirmed it was what she wanted to say, and I re-emailed it back to all you guys. So what's in your packet is as presented.
Perfect. Consent agenda, is there any items on the consent agenda that needs to be addressed, or do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the agenda as presented. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Perfect. All right, so this portion of the meeting will be public comments. If any citizen has anything to say besides what is on our printed agenda, now is the time to do it. You will have 3 minutes. Please step to the podium and fill out the sheet. Yeah, if you want to speak to something that is not on the agenda, now is that time.
Perfect. Is the annexation on the agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead.
What I have to speak about is just really quick. I was just hoping we could maybe review the amount of parking permit spaces downtown, or the capacity of, if you have a the permit spaces that are available to be permit-only spaces. The parking downtown is, we're all aware, it could be better in certain ways. It could be a lot worse, but just my adjacent businesses down on Depot Street, we all feel like we could use a couple more spaces a little bit closer, or the available permit spaces to be permit only. What would we go about doing to change that, if at all? Is there any?
Here's a good question for Robert.
Yeah, two things. First, sir, could you please state your name for the record?
I'm Ethan Osterl. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm
No worries.
owner of String of Hearts downtown. Yeah. So.
Yeah, the parking situation downtown, the Grande Main Street downtown, has been essentially asked to be the point of contact for any changes, recommended changes to the downtown parking situation. Timothy Bishop, who is in the back, who just, he kind of serves with that group, and I'm sure he'd be happy to chat with you offline.
Awesome.
About where that is in that process. But I don't think they are currently considering any specific recommendations for changes.
All right, we will start that process then. I appreciate it. That's all I had to bring up. Thank you, guys.
Perfect, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on a non-agenda item? Nope. All right. We will move into our public hearings. This public hearing is the second reading by title only of proposed ordinance annexation 50-plus properties group in 8 acres, file number 02 ANP 24. The public hearing is still open for the ordinance to be read by a second time by title only and considered for adoption, and that the rules of order for the public hearing were read in its entirety during the regular session of July 10th, 2024. Do we have a staff report, Mike?
Yeah, I'll give you kind of the executive summary version since this is the second hearing on this. But last October, we had a work session, to discuss annexation opportunities, and the results of that was was directed to bring to you 3 annexation processes in kind of 3 phases. The first phase occurred in January, so that was properties where we had valid signatures of consent for annexation. And that was completed at that January meeting by resolution. The next 2 phases are properties where we do not have valid annexation consents. This phase was picked as the second phase because these are the properties that almost all of them have city water, city sewer, one or the other or both. There's a couple properties that don't have any services in those that I believe may be vacant. But anyway, so that's this phase, and then this phase is also islands that are entirely surrounded by city limits, as is the third phase that is intended to come to you this fall, depending on our notice and timing of getting that prepared for you. So those are the 3 phases that are scheduled. This particular phase that we're having the second reading on has areas A through H, and because it is an island, state law does not allow for immediate annexation upon the effective date of the ordinance for residential properties. And so those residentially used and occupied properties have a 3-year delay, or kind of a waiting period before those go into effect. The annexation could happen sooner if there is a change of ownership of a property, or if a property owner comes to the city and asks to be annexed and waives that 3-year delay. So that's kind of what's before you. I think we have 4 non-residential properties in this group that are each in different areas that will, along with the streets, that will be subject to annexation as soon as the effective date arrives in September. But all of the other ones will have a 3-year delay. Do you have any questions?
The non-residential on H, the one designated by H? Or that's down by Island Avenue.
Yeah, so there's one that ODOT owns, that's a vacant parcel that's up on the corner of like Second and Lake. And then there's a kind of an industrial property. It's kind of the old bus barn. I think ODOT had it once in history of that site that's on Z Avenue over by, I think, Pine. There's a mini storage facility that's closer to the I think Walnut and maybe U or V, somewhere in that vicinity. And then the 4th one is the wood grain property that is right across from the mall. That's right at the wood grain main entrance. So those are the 4 that are identified for immediate annexation.
I do have another question. I know that we're doing these individual islands, but so surrounding them, they are annexed already, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. I just needed to verify that, yeah.
Yeah, some of them it's
The
just,
white on the map is within the city, and the
And they're already
beige is urban growth boundary.
yeah, let me just double check a map. I'm just looking at, I'm looking at the Exhibit A for Area A, but
Yeah, 'cause
but
the
the
A
white
is-
is,
yeah.
yeah, the white is all of the
Oh, and
city.
Okay, cities.
And then-
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah, any more questions? Oh, and I did want to bring up, you had 2 members of the public presented testimony at your last hearing, and I believe you have a handful of folks prepared today. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. All right, at this time, we are going to open it up to the public to come up, state if you are in favor to start. Yes, I have to offer for in favor, neutral, and then, of course, opposition would be now if you would like to step up to the podium. You do have a 3-minute time limit.
Okay, so my name is Maggie Willis, and this is my testimony. I live at 2803 North Spruce Street within the urban growth boundary. I receive city water and sewer services paying an escalated rate compared to other citizens of LeGrand. The urban growth boundary has the worst streets in the community, many of which are unpaved with no curbs, sidewalks. Fire services are provided by rural fire department in Island City, and Union County Sheriff ensures our safety with some shared agreements between the city and the county for these services. My point is that the city provides minimal services to urban growth area aside from water and sewer, which are priced at a higher rate for the urban growth boundary residents. If the city wishes for urban growth boundary residents to join the city, then they should commit in their annexation ordinance and upgrade infrastructure such as curbs, streets, sidewalks, police security, and fire safety to the city standards of the rest of the city. However, I question whether LeGrand citizens would support diverting funds to upgrade the urban growth boundary to the city standards. There are empty lots within the urban growth boundary which are pertinent as housing is currently deemed as emergency in smaller communities of 50,000 or less populations. House Bill 4134 enacted on March 7 of this year provides grants for infrastructure improvements to cities under this threshold. To illustrate, the city of Burns received $3 million for water, sewer, and storm water site improvements. McMinnville received $2 million for piping and pumps to activate water pump stations for urban development. The Amity received $1.5 million for storm water infrastructure and road improvements to support residential housing development within the urban growth boundaries. So, the city of LeGrand is willing to upgrade services within our urban growth boundary to the standards enjoyed by the other citizens of LeGrand. I lost my spot. Within our urban growth boundary that we live, to the standards enjoyed by the city residents. I am not in favor of being within the city limits. I'm not. Should the current phase
If you could
2
finish that,
annexation proposal be approved, it is as currently drafted, I will appeal to LUBA. In conclusion.
All right, your time is 3 minutes, ma'am. I have to keep
Okay.
it at a 3-minute time limit for everybody.
I'll leave my testimony for you all.
Thank you.
Would you like me to leave it?
You give it to the city recorder
All
over
right,
there.
thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Do I sign this?
Yes, please. Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this behalf?
I'm Ashley Anderson, and I live on North Maple. So I wanted to convince you to not make us city limits during the July proposed annexations, but after having heat exhaustion from working all day at the sawmill, I realized even though I had much to say about this, I would have spoken out of anger. So I'm here now, not angry, even though what you did to my family and neighbors by doing these annexations in the way you did is so wrong. This is an obvious land grab, and you are actually acting like a tyrannical government. But after realizing you guys have an agenda that is not neighborly, in fact, it is tactic to divide and conquer. See, I'm born and raised in LeGrand, and I can't believe how you guys can get away with it. bullying us, saying we are using your services, so that means you are entitled to make us city limits. But on my property, we have always paid double or 4 to 7 times more than for water and sewer rates, as to not be forced into city. What you did to my neighbors in December by dividing our street from the ones you legally can force, I'm guessing some homeowners signed paperwork to keep the deals promised when LeGrand City Water tricked us to get on city water and sewer. The remainder of my neighbors' properties who weren't trusting of being part of the city limits have been united to pay extra based on how the city handles itself. I really feel what you guys are doing is a big land grab, which makes you guys a dirty, corrupt corporation. And the way you went about the annexation this time proves it. You claim we receive services, therefore you are entitled for us to just give up our land as city, but I have a way different opinion. See, I was here when the city deceived, and I have watched and heard what my parents and neighbors had to go through to stay in county. See, I remember when the city told everyone down our street that our wells were contaminated or polluted. My family got the equipment to go deeper with the well, but some of our neighbors trusted you guys, and the city convinced everyone that we would get discounts and benefits by connecting the services. My family got deceived, so did my neighbors. That's why some neighbors sign off and receive city rates even though we are county. Is because after we hooked up to the services and filled in our septics and wells as to not ever be able to use them again, that's when benefits stopped. And these discounts stopped. And my family and neighbors realized what you were doing. That's when those benefits they said we had, we did not. In fact, that's when we realized you only wanted our land. That's why my neighbors and family have fought you guys for at least 30 years and won every time. You tricked my neighborhood. This year, it looks like your tricks are paying off by dividing my street into 2 separate annexations. You used to try annexing our neighborhood down the whole street, and you lost every time, no matter if legally you could make half of my street city limits due to the
If you could
majority
wrap it up,
wins.
please.
I should
Your
know
3
that
minutes.
in December, I should have known last December that you did this annexation of our street in 2 parts. Something shady was going on again. It's sad this time around you guys are actually going to get away with it.
Ma'am,
My whole life,
you've
and
hit your
parents
3
and
minutes.
neighborhood have fought to keep us county, but legally, you did nothing wrong.
Thank you for your time. Is there anybody else who would like to speak up?
I'm Tabitha McClure. I live on Russell. I don't really know how to do all of this discussion, but I do not wish to become city ordinance. I like being in the county. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Did you sign the sign-in sheet by chance? Need it for our records. Thank you.
I'm James Akers, and I live on North Maple. And I'm here to support my neighbors in not wanting to be annexed in. I will be honest, I'll reiterate the question I had last time. What do we gain as residents of the urban growth boundary by being forced, coerced, or however you want to word the annexation into LeGrand? Our taxes will go up by double. The water sewer rates will go down, but not enough to make up for the taxes that we gain. By paying higher taxes, you've heard one of my neighbors, say, are we going to get improved infrastructure to the quality of LeGrande? You know, I would love to see the quality of LeGrande different than what is on my road. Because I drive through some of these streets around LeGrande, and they're not any better. And so, again, what am I gaining if the quality of our roads are not there? There's supposedly routes to school with sidewalks, but the sidewalks are not ADA compliant. I go on a walk, and I intentionally walk in the streets of LeGrande, because when your curbs range from non-existent to almost 12 inches high on any given intersection down Spruce, it's not, I mean, to what quality? How do we say, I want to be at a high quality, when unfortunately the town has been pieced together, there hasn't been state standards, and so the quality is whatever was at that time. And so what does our community have to gain by annexation? Yes, I know we'll get the fire service, we'll get the local PD services versus Union County Sheriff or LeGrande Rural Fire. And those services are important. But last time I was also told, well, urban growth boundaries get to use the parks, and they get to use the streets driving to and from work. That is true. But so do other visitors from within our valley, within our state, within our nation. Anybody coming to LeGrande has access to the parks. So again, what benefit do we gain? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak up? All right. Do we have any council discussion?
Can I get some clarification on what changes will occur once a property's annexed?
Sure. Mike, you want to cover that?
Sure. I mean, the best I could tell you is that, I mean, this gentleman explained it. I mean, the taxes will adjust to a city tax. The water and sewer rates will get cut in half. And other than that, those are the immediate changes that would occur. As far as all of these are all, you know, county jurisdictional areas right now. And so they're not on any of the city lists for maintenance, for upgrades, for anything, because they are not city. So urban growth boundary does not mean the city has any responsibilities over them. Once they are annexed, they then get added to our list for maintenance, they get added to our list for upgrades. And so as we get grant dollars and we prioritize the streets in our community, these streets will get added to that list for prioritization. And likely because of the quality of these streets, they will probably rank higher than other streets that are already in our city limits that I don't anticipate we'll see curbs and sidewalks installed. We have a number of neighborhoods that do not have those, but we may see these added to a list at some point in time for upgrades in asphalt and other things, just like our other streets in our community.
Did you let them know that that would be a possibility if they annexed in, that their roads would become more of a priority than some of the other roads in LeGrande because the disrepair that they're in?
That's not a promise I can make that they will be prioritized higher than other ones. That's a public works conversation. So I would rather, maybe I can defer to Kyle on how that works, but they get added to our list. So that's the only thing that I can have. And most of the property owners in the area did not reach out and ask those types of questions. So, you know, but that's the conversation that I think we've had here at the council meeting. But
And police and fire and plowing and,
Yeah, so those are all benefits that, that these properties will have as part of annexation.
thank you.
Mike, realizing that there's a tremendous amount of variability here, potentially, in your estimation, does the increased rates of water and sewer that some of these residents are paying offset the burden to the city of LeGrande for utilization of other things like roads, libraries, parks? Do you see those as equal, or is that imbalanced?
I don't know in that scale of question. I don't know how it relates to those individual services. I know as you look at the overall property tax increase in comparison to the reduction in the water and sewer rate, I think there's only I could probably count them on one hand if I go to my chart and look of properties that are actually going to see a reduction in overall costs annually. Every property is going to see a reduction monthly in that water sewer bill. But come November, just about every property is going to see some level of increase, and it's all based on their property value. The higher valued properties are going to see a higher increase because it's based on a dollar per thousand formula. And so the higher valued properties will see a higher increase, but they're all going to see a similar water sewer reduction.
What was the original reasoning in charging an increased rate for water and sewer for these properties when those services were provided to them?
I don't know. Many of these properties, at least according to our finance person that managed it, some of these properties had services in the late 70s, early 80s. I don't know if there's anybody still here that was around at that time that negotiated that. I don't know the circumstances behind that. I know the rate that we have set is set by city resolution. But I don't know what was negotiated in the 80s, early 80s. At least the information I've been told is a lot of that is, at least on the well side, is the Boise Cascade facility log yard contaminated many of the wells in that vicinity, and there was a DEQ related involvement that kind of forced this change to occur. But I don't know any of the details of what folks were had negotiated or what was offered or promised or so. Yeah.
Do you, Robert, happen to know the reasoning behind the increased rate?
So it's customary to charge a higher rate for water and sewer outside the city limits. It's pretty much a standard double, not just Oregon-wide, but nationally. In answer to your initial question about the offsetting costs, those dollars cannot be used to offset other services provided by the city. All of the water and sewer revenues must stay within the water and sewer departments. So we don't take the double rate that's being charged for water and then take that extra revenue and put it into the city's general fund for other purposes. We can't legally do that. So it's just a added cost associated with providing the service outside the city limits.
So the utilization of roads, libraries, parks, other services by citizens involved here, the city has no way of recouping that. That burden is placed upon the taxpayers
Correct.
within city boundaries
Correct.
to pay for those services that are being utilized.
Yes,
Okay. The increased water and sewer can't help to offset that, is what you
it cannot.
stated. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Sorry, I misunderstood your question, so
Okay.
thank you.
Any more questions for Mike? Thank you, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, I would like to close the hearing and entertain a motion.
I move that the proposed ordinances annexing areas A through H be read for the second time by title only, put to a vote and adopted. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any additional councilor discussion? Nope. Could the city recorder read the proposed ordinance for the second time by title only?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, declaring certain territory annexed to the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, specifically properties located within Area A in Township 2, South Range 38 East, Section 31DD, and all adjacent street rights-of-way, and removing said property from the LaGrande Rural Fire Protection District and declaring an effective date.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, declaring certain territory annexed to the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, specifically properties located within Area B in Township 3 South, Range 38 East, Section 5AB, and the adjacent Spruce Street right-of-way, and removing said property from the LaGrande Rural Fire Protection District and declaring an effective date.
Do we need to re-vote?
Yeah, you have to vote on each individual
Okay.
ordinance.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're doing fine.
Are we good now, though?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? There's none. All right. We will move on to our next item.
Mayor,
We still have,
we have several.
We're doing A.
Going all the way
Oh.
Oh, individual.
Gotcha.
All right.
This is C.
Go ahead.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, declaring certain territory annexed to the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, specifically properties located within Area C in Township 3 South, Range 38 East, Section 5AB, and removing said property from the LaGrande Rural Fire Protection District and declaring an effective date.
All in favor? Aye.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, declaring certain territory annexed to the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, specifically properties located within Area D in Township 3 South, Range 38 East, Section 5AB, and the adjacent North Pine Street right-of-way, and removing said property from the LaGrande Rural Fire Protection District and declaring an effective date.
All in favor? Aye.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, declaring certain territory annexed to the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, specifically properties located within Area E and Township 3, South Range 38 East, Section 5AB, and removing said property from the LaGrande Rural Fire Protection District and declaring an effective date.
All in favor? Aye.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, declaring certain territory annexed to the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, specifically properties located within Area F in Township 3 South Range 38 East, Section 5AC, and the adjacent North Willow Street, X Avenue, and North Cherry Street, and removing said property from the LaGrande Rural Fire Protection District and declaring an effective date.
All in favor? Aye.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, declaring certain territory annexed to the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, specifically properties located within Area G and Township 3 South Range 38 East, Section 5DB, and the adjacent North Willow Street and U Avenue, and removing said property from the LaGrande Rural Fire Protection District and declaring an effective date.
All in favor? Aye.
Our last one. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, declaring certain territory annexed to the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, specifically properties located within Area H and Township 3, South Range 38 East, Section 5, and removing said property from the LaGrande Rural Fire Protection District and declaring an effective date.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
now you can go to the next one.
What's that?
Next agenda item.
Next agenda item. Perfect.
What is the effective date?
Are you going to send a letter out to all of them, Robert, so they have that
Yeah, so the effective date of the ordinance will be the, let's see. These are 30 days after, right, Mike? And then the actual effective date of the annexation will be in 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so September 6, 2024 is the effective date of the ordinance. So those properties that are commercial would be annexed as of that date. The right-of-ways would be annexed as of that date. And then if a residential property is sold before that 3 years, it would be annexed at that time. Otherwise, at the end of the 3 years, that's when they would be annexed, residential, so. You're welcome.
All right, we are moving on to our next item, which is public hearing and first reading by title only of a proposal ordinance rezoning properties from general commercial to medium density residential on the zoning map and from commercial to residential on the comprehensive plan map. At this time, I would like to open the public hearing and ask the city recorder to read the rules of order by its entirety.
The City Council will conduct one quasi-judicial public hearing. These rules of order are applicable to the public hearing to consider rezoning property from general commercial to medium-density residential. File number 01ZON24, applicant is Carol Summers. Each hearing will proceed as follows. The mayor will request the staff report, which includes the applicable criteria and standards for the issues under consideration in the application. Subsequent to opening the public hearing, the mayor will accept testimony relating to the application. The mayor may state a time limit for testimony. All testimony must be directed toward the applicable criteria. Oregon land use law requires that all issues raised by a participant during the hearing must be sufficiently clear and specific to allow the hearing body and other parties an opportunity to respond to those issues. Failure to raise the issues during the hearing may invalidate future appeal. The proceedings are being electronically recorded to be transcribed in written minutes. When testifying, please step to the podium and state your name. Before leaving the podium, please complete the speaker sign-in sheet. The applicant will be invited to speak first, followed by proponents, then by opponents, and then by any parties neutral to the application. An opportunity will be provided to parties to clarify any issues raised or to rebut testimony. Proponents and opponents will be provided an opportunity to clarify any issues or to rebut testimony. If additional documents or new evidence is introduced during the hearing, any participant may request a continuation of the hearing. Any participant may request that the hearing record be kept open for 7 days to submit additional written evidence or testimony for the purpose of responding to new evidence. Unless waived, the applicant has 7 days to submit a written response. Members of the City Council may ask questions of the staff or hearing participants at any time. The mayor may then close the hearing or continue the hearing at a specified time and place. All decisions must be based on findings of fact from the staff report or evidence and testimony received which relate to the criteria of the land use decision. An appeal of the City Council decision must be made in writing to the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals, together with the required fee within 21 days from the date that the final decision is mailed to the applicant and interested participants. Before the mayor requests the staff report for the public hearing, the city councilors will be asked to make any declarations. A councilor must declare any ex parte or pre-hearing contact, including the person's name and the nature of the discussion, as well as any site visitations to the area in question. Councilors should declare any personal or financial interests in this matter and may disqualify themselves from participation in the hearing. The mayor will then ask if anyone in the audience wishes to challenge the right of any councilor to hear this matter. Back to you.
At this time, is there any counselor that has any declarations of ex parte, contact, or conflicts of interest? Is there any citizens that wish to challenge any one of us counselors' right to sit up here? Nope, there is none. Can we have the staff report, Mike?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is a rezone from a commercial zone to a medium-density residential zone. The property's located kind of in the vicinity of Geckler and Highway 30. Yeah, and it's a barn. Essentially, it's a lot that has a barn on it at the back of this field. And that barn is part of the homestead that is adjacent to that. and it's all under the same ownership, family ownership. It's been in that family for a really long time. This application was considered by the Planning Commission last month, and the applicant was present. I don't think they're here today. I haven't seen them. So in their testimony to the Planning Commission, the son has relocated back to LeGrand and desires to convert this barn into a dwelling. And this barn has a lot of, I guess, family history and sentimental attachment, and they want to keep it with the house and use it for residential purposes. And so they're asking for it to be rezoned to residential to support that conversion to a dwelling. And adjacent to this property, to the south and to the west, is residentially zoned property, so it's a good candidate for rezoning. For our buildable land need, we have a current study for commercial land, and then we have a study we did probably 3-4 years ago on the residential, and we have a high need for both of those zones. But given that this property, for the most part, is fully developed and is kind of an accessory structure to that homestead, the Planning Commission supported the applicant's request for rezoning it to residential, because it really doesn't contribute to any kind of commercial element of our need. It wouldn't satisfy any of the business types that we are targeting, or the lot sizes or locations. So the Planning Commission supported this. We sent this application off to the state for review. They're kind of a guaranteed or a required part of the process, and if they support the rezone as far as meeting state code requirements for evaluating our land needs and how we manage our zoning, then they generally will either not respond, or they'll submit some type of testimony that will ask us to make an adjustment. And I verbally heard from them and that they have no objection, but they did not submit anything in writing. And I don't know if I have anything else to add. It seems that it's a fairly basic application, and something that did not generate any controversy or conflict, or even, much discussion at the Planning Commission level. It does meet all of our review criteria for both housing, and it doesn't conflict with any of our commercial goals or policies in our comp plan.
How many acres is this?
I'll have to look it up, but it's only maybe a couple acres, but that includes the driveway flagpole that goes back into it, so it's really not that big.
And there's just a barn on that, or a barn and a house?
Right now, it's just a barn that the owner would like to convert to a dwelling, a little barn dominium, I guess is what I'm calling them, because it's a little more common, but that's their plan, is having it's a 2-story structure, and it'll be a little 2-story dwelling.
Any more questions for Mike?
Mike, the conversion to residential would really only impact that, that particular dwelling then that's proposed. It's not like we're going to see this potentially divided and more housing created as a result of this.
That's not their intention. With the I don't know if there's even space to do, they can maybe do an accessory dwelling unit, once they get the zoning done, but there's not, it's just the way the barn is situated on this lot, there's really no way to divide the property. One of the pieces that we looked at, ODOT looked at it as well, because one of the pieces that we have to look at in our review process are traffic impacts, and they view this as kind of going in a positive direction on impacts, because a commercially zoned property generates a lot more impact than a residential property. And so they saw no conflicts with this,
Is there any more questions for Mike? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
At this time, we would like to invite testimony in favor, opposition, and neutral. There's none. In any counselor discussion beyond this point? At this time, I would like to ask the city recorder to read the proposed ordinance for the first time by title only.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of LaGrande, Oregon, rezoning property from general commercial to medium-density residential on the zoning map and from commercial to residential on the comprehensive plan map and declaring an effective date.
At this time, the public hearing is continued to September 4th, 2024, at which time the proposed ordinance is scheduled to be read a second time by title only, considered in for adoption. That will be it for public hearings. We have no unfinished business, no new business. Staff comments. Is there any staff that would like to make any comments?
Mr. Mayor, Councilors, got a few updates for you on some requested topics. Street projects. So far this year, we've completed 7. We've hit some great hurdles out of the 15 projects we had prepared for the summer. We've had 5 that have now needed, between our preparations, sewer main extensions, stormwater improvements, and it just seems as soon as we get ready to go, there's somebody who breaks. So we're continuing on. We still have about 8 different projects that we have scoped for this paving season, so that's probably about mid-October into October. So that would put us at 15 completed projects and approximately about 55 blocks of paving that would have been done during this season. So pretty good chunk. The next few streets that we're going to be looking at, you'll be seeing some movement on. I think next week we're scheduled to have a crew out to be doing curbing on 6th Street from C up to G. That's along the EOU campus where they're going to be doing the softball improvements. So they'll be getting some new curbing and getting prepped for a multi-use path or something in that area. That's not going forward yet, but we're just getting prepped for that so we can get the road paved. You'll also see some work over on V Avenue from Spruce over to Willow, and Division is also on the list here shortly. So we have another 5 projects out there, but those are the ones that we see moving on in the next few days. So also on that note, school is about to kick off, so we have also starting doing our maintenance around the school areas. So we've done some pothole filling in most of the major intersections around the schools that we see coming up. You're going to start seeing crews doing bake downs in the mornings to get all of those crosswalks warmed up and visible. Probably try and hit some of those areas that we've addressed of possible new crosswalks. We'll do a visual review of all the signage, make sure most of the stuff's in place, see if there's anything new that needs to be added. And also wanted to report we got the Safe Routes to School grant, second round in on July 31st. So now we just want to wait and see where the awards are. I think they anticipate that being around September. So our application pretty much did a whole bunch of infrastructure around Greenwood, which would start right at Island Avenue and run up the Spruce corridor, introducing new ADA ramps, new curbing, new sidewalks, and what they call rectangular rapid flash beacon at the crossing there from the school right near V Avenue, where the kids could go across to the field with some extra flashing lights and signage. So I think that's most of mine, but be happy to answer any questions if you have any for me today.
I just want to say thank you for the roads that you have redone. Willow looks beautiful, and what I think it was the other one is Penn. There's another
Spring.
good one you guys, or Spring, I'm sorry.
Yep,
Thank you.
yep.
They look great. Keep it up.
They are good. I would like to say we are still having a lot of problems with people blowing through closures. So widely, if you have a big barricade and you want to get to your house, don't drive over the hot asphalt. It's expensive. It ruins it, causes problems. So we're going to continue to try have a public campaign that when your street's closed, it just means you can't drive on it for now. So
It'll be nice when it's done.
it will be.
Would you say that we're on target for the plan that we made for the spending with the ARPA funds? Are we set back? Are we ahead? Where are we?
I would say we're on target for now. I mean, we're behind where I wanted to be, but when you start looking at the preparation for some of these projects, I'll use 12th Street for an example. There's a good month of work from just our water and sewer crews prepping the taps so that we don't pave that street and have to cut it within the next year. There's a lot of galvanized services, a lot of stuff that we're trying to get on the front end so we don't run into the same old problem of cutting asphalt and shortening its life after we've paid so much money to get that road up to service. So still feel good about our schedule. Don't feel like we're behind at this point, but as always, $3 million in 3 years is
It's a lot of money.
it's a big lift.
And I know part of that plan was we knew that we didn't have the manpower as a city to complete all those projects, and so there was going to, the plan was to outsource some of this. Is that?
Still the plan. I would say about a third of the work is going to be outsourced. So, and of that 3 million, City Manager Strope has prioritized that $3 million is to be put as much to asphalt as possible. So these water services and sewer service works, that's not coming out of the ARPA funds. Those are all coming out of the water and sewer funds, so.
Any word or update on Sunset in front of the hospital, and
Yes.
how's that gonna be?
So it sounds like the grand opening for the hospital is scheduled for September 26th, I
We
believe.
get the keys on September 11th, and then, I think grand opening is the 26th.
So we've been told that we've already gone through the process of identifying any of the sidewalks in the area of the school and the curbing in that area that needs to be replaced and upgraded due to damages by the construction. There's been some limited agreements outside that area to make up for some of the areas that got higher traffic than normal. We're still in negotiations on what will be taken care of on the street frontage, but at this point, we know for sure that we are going to be doing a grind and inlay project in that area. And so
We're doing it, or they're doing it?
well, we're in negotiations on how exactly those pay limits are gonna be, but it will be, at the very least, a shared expense. At the very most, hopefully, it's no cost to the city, but
And it's gonna be done this summer?
it will be done this summer. It's supposed to be done prior to opening. I know the general contractor has been pushing very hard to get that section of Sunset clean up so that they can get the grinder in there. I know that they do have the grinder already scheduled to be here, and I believe it's in the next few weeks, so.
And then the sidewalk repair outside of their construction zone, a lot of those pieces of heavy equipment have kind of taken out a lot of the curbs and,
Yeah, so we did a walkthrough with the contractor, identified the different areas that we saw, where we saw equipment damage or heavy traffic damage, those kinds of things, so. They're currently in the process of pulling and replacing and doing all of those.
all right. And then have we addressed anything, we're doing, on the Safe Routes to School, kind of the plan from 2019 where they identified? Are we addressing some of those things? 'Cause we-
Most of our focus, the switch to the look at Safe Routes to School really took off in December. So this is the first budget in the last month where we've actually had a little bit of funds that's been earmarked towards some of that stuff. Most of that focus will probably be on the Second Street area still. So about 2020 is when we identified Second Street as being the major identified project in that area that really fit into what we had going on. So we've been working on Second Street and have probably expended $1 million to $1.5 million redoing that Second Street corridor from Adams all the way up towards Central and the high school. So we'll be hitting the high school next year. So next summer, we're scheduled to do that phase in between K and H. We'll probably continue with those projects on, and we were kind of relying on Safe Routes to School in hopes that we could get some funds from there to really address some issues over at Greenwood that were identified in that study. We weren't successful in 22. 24, we extended the project and attached it to a state highway, a little bit more of an accident. I know it doesn't seem like it, but LeGrand is really low on pedestrian bicycle accidents in these school zones, which is a major part of the scoring of Safe Routes to School.
We've got to
So-
have kids get hit to get money.
If you want to get money, you need to be on a state highway, you need to have a high accident rate, or you need to have high speeds right next to the school. And luckily, we have none of those. We did have a slight bicycle accident on Island and Monroe, which is right next to a state highway, so that's where we integrated into our application the sidewalk that connects Island to Spruce, which brought our score up and hopefully gets us above the funding line, and hopefully we get some money and we can get that corridor fixed up. So,
And what about signage in that neighborhood near the high school and Central?
we're gonna kind of take a visual drive-through and
Yield
make sure our
signs that we
signs
talked
are
about.
there, and we're gonna take into the count the recommendations that have been made by PitSmac and you guys, and see what we can do about any additional signage that needs to be put up or updated this year, and try and get that up before school starts.
Slow people down.
Yeah, and you did say that you were going to be working on some of those sidewalks earlier in your thing.
Yeah, you know, really, we're identifying that. It's the northeast corner of H and Second, which has been identified to not have any infrastructure whatsoever. So we are moving along in our Second Street design to make sure that our street grades aren't going to change it. I don't really want to put it in and rip it out a year later. So I think we're far enough along that we know some grades, and we're going to be able to place at least the ramps in that corner, so there's basically an island for kids to cross to. It's not going to give them a path all the way from Fourth to Second like we're hoping to end up with, but it will provide, you know, in the midterm, something for them to stand on so they don't feel like they have to sit in the street. Yeah. And I'm surprised you didn't notice our current, you know, just let the potholes develop. That slows people down.
Boo.
So Karina and I need to coordinate sometime when I'm on my bike and you can drive very slowly. And you can tell us where we need to be, right, Kyle?
That's right.
All right.
That's what.
I'll just have a passenger just kind of go tap.
Yeah.
There you
I
go.
don't mean to be facetious, but I mean, I get it. I understand why the funding
is.
is that way, but it is unfortunate. that
But
we
you
are-
look at
is.
schools in Salem or Portland where they do have
Right.
crazy traffic.
I'd rather
We're-
be
we're the-
safe and not have funding than
Yeah.
be
Me too.
unsafe.
The progress is a little slower, but it's a little bit more acceptable.
I'd rather do it that way.
All righty.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Any other staff members would like to come up and speak?
They're afraid of us.
City manager.
Thank you. Just a reminder, on August 19th, we have the work session on the Jefferson Corridor plan. Your calendar actually identifies it, that kind of being a two-part conversation that would include the transportation system plan discussion. We're not going to do that because we're not pursuing grant funding for that this year because of the other Goal 14 work that we're doing. So that work session will just be on the Jefferson corridor, and just want to make you aware of that. So, see you on the 19th. That's it.
Is that for you, Robert?
It is.
Any other counselors like to make any comments?
I would, I want to say, I mean, this is how a city council is supposed to work. We have concerned citizens who came out and raised concerns about an action that we, you know, were proposing to take. And while it, you know, the result of that wasn't as those citizens would have desired, you know, we're in a position where we have to make unpopular decisions. There will always, the decisions we make are always unpopular among a certain group of people, and we have to consider the weight of the entire city and the burden that's placed upon the city of LeGrand and all of those people as we make these decisions. But I for one, I want to express appreciation for the people who came out, because those voices do matter, and sometimes that is what changes a perspective here and makes us aware of, you know, the impact upon citizens that these decisions have. So I think it's important that we, you know, consider that, and I hope that we have more people who come and visit these meetings and express their views. That's how this is designed to work. That's the mark of a healthy community, when we can have those discussions in a public arena like that and do it civilly.
And I also want you to know that we hear you. We understand, and I understand the frustration of roads and just everything, because it's throughout the whole city. And James, you said that. So, yeah, I mean, we really like that input. And sometimes, yeah, just like David says, sometimes we have to do the unpopular thing. But we want to hear from you. We want to know, because it can change our opinion depending on what's happening at that time and so forth. So we appreciate your participation.
If
I
I
think
might
the
just-
hardest thing to, when you're looking at an issue, is when we have crickets and there's no one in here. Yeah, it says that people care and are paying attention, yay.
And I would say, you know, I don't mean to take too much more time, but the burden is on us to make sure that, you know, that our good city staff is doing what you've requested, which is making sure that as we do incorporate and annex these locations, that we're making sure that those locations are considered on equal footing with other, residents of the city. That is our burden and responsibility and I intend to take that seriously, and I know that the city staff does, so.
Any more councilor comments? All right. I do have one proclamation I am going to read this evening. And at that time, after that, we will adjourn to the urban renewal. I, Justin Rock, Mayor of the City of LeGrande, do hereby proclaim the week of August 4th through 10th, 2024 as LeGrande, Oregon Union County Farmers Market Week. In conjunction with the observance of National Farmers Market Week, I call upon LeGrande and Union County, Oregon citizens to celebrate Farmers Market with appropriate observance and activities. Thank you. So with no more, I will adjourn the city council. And do you need any time? Just keep going. Okay. We will move on into urban renewal. Can I have a roll call, please? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I called to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Justin Rock,
Here.
David Glabe,
Here.
Corinne Dudo,
Here.
Nicole Howard. Here. Molly King is absent excused. Mary Ann is absent excused. Denise Wheeler.
Here.
Is there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes.
Okay. Consent agenda.
I move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All right. This will be the public comments for the urban renewal. If there's any citizens that would like to step to the podium and speak on non-agenda items, this is the time. And you do have a 3-minute time limit. There are none. We have no public hearings, no unfinished business, and new business. Amending the Liberty Theater Foundation agreement to extend loan agreements. Robert, could you?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the agency. I think we all expected to be doing a ribbon cutting in August of 2024 as opposed to talking about an extension. But unfortunately, the process to get through EDA, to actually get the agreements in place, get the bid documents and design of the improvements all green lighted so that the project can move forward and receive the $500,000-ish in funding took much longer than anticipated. Ashley O'Toole is here to speak on behalf of the foundation and answer any questions. The project is out to bid at the present time, and I think that the foundation has really done everything that they could do within their authority and power to get things done in a timely fashion, but the challenges that they faced with EDA were not anywhere near what we anticipated when we reviewed the extension request last year. So that's why we have this back before you, and be happy to answer any questions you have, or Ashley can, if you'd like, give kind of a quick overview of the process and where they are at your pleasure.
I'm happy to make a motion unless people have a discussion.
What is the alternative of not doing
We do have to ask for public comment.
The alternative would be to not approve the extension. The conditions in the loan agreement would be triggered, and they would then have to repay the loan with interest. That would be contrary to the action that the agency took to authorize entering into an intercreditor agreement to place the agency in second position behind EDA. So I don't think it's in anyone's best interest. The intent of this agreement at the onset was to protect the agency's interest to make sure that the project was completed, but to forgive the loan when the theater was opened. And I don't think that the foundation is at fault over the delays that have occurred over the past 2 to 3 years. And so I firmly support and recommend to the agency approving this action.
Thank you, Robert. At this time, I would like to invite public comments. There is none. Agency discussion? Motion.
I move that the district manager Strope be authorized to draft and sign an amendment to the Liberty Theater loan agreement granting a 1-year extension as presented.
Second.
Any more additional discussion?
I appreciate all that you do. It's a great vision, and it's just been a rough road.
Got plenty of stories to share.
Oh,
Love to hear them.
you need to write a book.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
So with that, any more? Do you have anything, Robert?
I do not.
Any of the agency have anything? We are adjourned.